Okay, you're good.
All right, welcome everyone. This is November 10, 2022, and this is the Salary Commission meeting for Lake Stevens. I would like to call the meeting to order. It is now 6:08 p.m. If everyone would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Horde,
Present.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Present.
Commissioner Hampton,
Present.
Commissioner Ben,
We got notice that she would be unable to attend this
Okay.
evening.
and soon to be sworn in Commissioner Huber or Huber? Huber. Present. Okay.
Wonderful. So before we get to our action items, can we get a motion to excuse Commissioner Dixie Ben for her absence this evening, please?
I second that motion.
Well,
I will second her motion.
okay. Oh, very good. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing
Aye.
none. Thank you. Hearing no nays, the motion to excuse Commissioner Ben is passed. So going forward to our first action item, I will ask you, Madam Clerk, if you would please administer the oath of office to our newest Salary Commission member, John Huber.
Okay, John, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you hold up your right hand. So I state your name,
I, John Hubert,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and state of Washington
and state of Washington
and the ordinances of the city of Lake Stevens,
and the ordinances of the city of Lake Stevens,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties of Salary Commission member
perform and discharge the duties of salary board member
according to the law
according to the law
and to the best of my ability and understanding.
to the best of my ability and understanding.
All right.
Congratulations. Welcome to the Salary Commission, John. We're glad to
Thank you.
have you here.
I've only prepared a few words.
All right. So I wanted to take just a moment and talk about the Robert's Rules of Order, which is how we run our meeting. And Madam Clerk reminded me that there is a pamphlet or written information that she will prepare and get out to all of us. I just wanted to literally take just a moment to say that, you know, as we move forward in order to take action, it has to be done. We will have a discussion, of course, but then the process will be one person will make a motion and say something to the effect of, I move that we. And then after that action is described, another person will need to second it. If there is no second, that motion cannot go forward. After we have a motion and a second, then we can have more discussion if needed before we take a vote. And you will register your vote either yay or nay, and it will either pass or fail based on the yays or nays. If there is a question as to how many yays and how many nays, assuming it's close by verbal count or verbal hearing, then we can go one by one to each commissioner to identify properly whether you voted yay or nay to determine if that motion will pass or not. And that is about as detailed as I'd like to get tonight. I just wanted to give you a very brief overview so that we were all on the same page moving forward.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're very, very welcome. So next on our agenda for action items is the election of a Salary Commission chairperson. So let me just open it up and just say, does anyone here wish to be considered to be chairperson? And Kathy, Commissioner Horde, if you are muted, please unmute yourself so that you can participate in this conversation. Okay, it looks like she's still muted and I can't tell. Commissioner Horde, if you are communicating, I can't tell.
She might have
We
just
can't hear you.
disconnected.
Now it looks
Scared her
like we
away.
missed you. We lost you. Oh dear.
That maybe means no. She
I
does
don't
not
think
want
she
to be
wants to be.
considered.
For me, just starting out here, I don't think I would be a
Mhm.
good pick at this time. So
Okay,
I would.
all right, fine.
Not.
If I may, I move that we nominate Commissioner Hampton based on her experience.
I have no issues with that. I would second that if she would be willing to accept it.
Okay, well, thank you.
If
That's
she's-
very kind. And in light of the circumstances, yes, I am,
Three of us.
if it and agreeable to you, yes, I am willing to continue on, as they say, for the betterment and the common good. So I wish we could get Commissioner Horde back. I'd like her to participate in this conversation if possible.
You check in with Anya.
Okay. So we're going to just allow for the silence for a moment while we try to figure out how to get her back.
She's back. Here she comes.
Oh, wonderful. All right, so once she's back, and it looks like she might be. So Commissioner Horde, could you unmute yourself, please? And I will bring you up to speed as to,
Jim?
Yeah, hi, sorry about that. I lost audio, so I had to call back in. So last I heard, you were calling for the commission board chair of the board.
yes, and I was asking if anyone present was willing or interested in acting as the chairperson. And Commissioner Huber and Commissioner Schmidt indicated that they were not interested at this time because they were both new. Commissioner Schmidt then put forward a motion that I continue on as chairperson. However, you were not able to be part of that conversation. So I'd like to hear your comments, please. And if you are interested, please so indicate.
Oh, thank you so much for considering me. I also still feel like I am pretty new. So I second the motion to have you continue.
All right, well, we'll count that as a third. And
Excellent.
all right. So we have a motion on the table that I, Michelle Hampton, continue on as chairperson of the Salary Commission. And we have a second and a third. Is there any further discussion that we need to have before we vote?
No,
Hearing none, seeing none. Let us vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Hearing none, motion has passed. And I will continue on as chair, and I thank you for your confidence in my abilities. All right, so let us move forward to the minutes from our last meeting, which were dated October 20, 2022. And I presume everybody's had an opportunity to read through the minutes. Does anyone need a moment to do that? No, all right. Are there any items that need to be discussed, modified, considered in any way different from how they are memorialized?
Not to my recollection.
No? Commissioner Huber, anything?
Commissioner Hampton.
Great.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Horde, go ahead.
Oh, no, it was Anya. I just wanted to make a comment for the new commissioners on how we do the minutes. Because all these are recorded and posted to YouTube, we try to keep the minutes very brief, kind of to the point. We don't go into detail on every conversation or your entire conversation that you've had, because they are available in video and audio to citizens. So that's why they're kind of shorthand minutes. So I just want to explain that so you know going forward how we do the minutes.
Okay. I didn't see anyone bringing up any comments or revisions to the minutes. So if I may have a motion, please, to approve the minutes as written, that would be for the minutes of October 20, 2022.
I move to accept the minutes as written.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion we need to have? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay,
You gotta
and
slow down on
it
that.
has, I'm just, for the record, I'm just noting that there's a slight lag. And so because Commissioner Hort is on the phone, her voice is coming in a little bit after, but it was clear to me that she was voting in the affirmative. So we will approve those minutes. Thank you very much.
And Commissioner Hampton, I just wanted to let you know that I'll have both minutes for our next in-person meeting next week for you to sign then.
Okay, thank you. All right, so on page 4 of 5 of our packet for this week, we got the position description for the mayor, who is our executive of Lake Stevens. And may I ask if either Ms. Anya or Ms. Caitlin have any instruction or any presentation for us at this time?
I don't really have a presentation. I can just highlight what was in the packet. Like you mentioned, the job description is included as requested, as well as the previous year's data that we looked at with the comparable cities. I will add that I did go back and ask the missing cities for this year's data, Mill Creek and Edmonds, for information. And I do have updated information for Mill Creek, but not Edmonds. They have not gotten back to us, unfortunately. So when we get into discussion, I can throw up the new spreadsheet on the screen, or you can write it down if you'd like. It does change the average by the city council positions only, because Mill Creek only had a part-time mayor.
Quick
Okay.
question, do we have I don't have my paperwork from last time. I don't know that I was allowed to keep it. I don't remember. But this one.
The
here?
current year information
Yeah, I was wondering, do we
by
have an
city
extra
that we
copy of that?
used last,
Right, it would have been,
page 5 of 11 from last meeting.
okay. Do we happen to
I
have
can
another?
sneak
copy?
over it.
Yeah, I have a copy of it handy, and I would be happy to share. I did write some notes.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay, wonderful. If you two can share, that would be great. All right. So were there any questions on the description for the mayor?
No questions. It was something I did request last meeting, and I found it helpful to make sure that we have a direction of, is the mayor able to uphold his duties and responsibilities?
Sure. And just as a reminder to all, last year, the mayor changed categories from being a part-time to a officially full-time mayor. And that is why the prior year's minutes also reflect a new salary structure at that time. Okay, so last time we met, we talked a little bit about these grids. And I'm referring to page 5 of the October 20, 2022 packet, and also page 5 of tonight's packet.
Yes.
All right, so if we're looking at page 5 of October 20th, that is all of the 2022 numbers.
Mhm.
And it looks as though the packet page 5 for tonight's November 10th meeting is the 2021 numbers as a point of comparison. So let me just tell you how we kind of looked at this last time as just part of the process of working through the big question of where do we go from here? And what we did was we focused on a couple of things that really impact our city. One of them was population, and the other one was sales tax. And the reason why sales tax was so important is because Lake Stevens tends to be a bedroom community. We have a section that has some commercial, but we're nowhere near as large as many of the communities around us. Now, looking at the chart, you can see many of them have higher numbers, a few have lower. But if we even think just in our own minds to our neighbor Marysville, they've got, and Arlington, they have huge commercial sections of their city, which allows for a lot more sales tax. And why that makes a difference is because when you have more sales tax coming into the city, you don't have to charge as much to the homeowner residents. And so that is, of course, the crux of the balancing act, because we do have a traditionally larger section, vast majority of our section of our city that is homeowners and homes, as opposed to the commercial sections that produce sales tax. So feel free to jump in. Let's talk first about population. The numbers provided to us show that our population is currently about 40,700. So if we look up the chart, we've got Mount Vernon at about 35.5. We've got Linwood at about 38.7 and change, and Edmonds at 42.9. So we've got two that are slightly below, one that's slightly above, and the rest don't seem to be very close at all. Comments on that? Questions, other thoughts?
I think when adding in, as you mentioned, the sales tax along with population, it definitely stands out to me that Mount Vernon seems to be, it's actually a 2 million higher, but seems to be fairly comparable here when you're looking at both sales tax and population.
Okay. Yep. I see where you're going with that. If we skip over to the sales tax column, we are at approximately 6.1 million. And it looks like Monroe with 6.3 might be the closest to us. Mount Vernon is 8.8 million. There's a few that are a little bit lower and many that are a lot higher. Snow, if you go all the way to the top also, you've got Snohomish with 8.3 million. So the two that are higher but closest are at least 2 million more than where we are at currently.
Do we know what Costco's supposed to be bringing in? What's the estimated value that they're gonna start?
Not exactly, but I remember attending those meetings, and as I best recall, and please do your due diligence, but as I best recall, the understanding was that with what the city is fronting for Costco and essentially paying so that they don't versus what they're bringing in, they estimated, at least at that time, their best guess was it was going to take about 2 years of them being open before we saw anything positive.
Okay.
That would make sense.
So Costco is going to play a factor, but probably about 2 years or so from now.
So I think that in looking at the page 5 from last meeting on October 20th, so the current data, I think the highlighted in blue cities are kind of where we were finding most of the kind of overlap and similarities there. And from that, I did want to kind of point out the reason I requested 2021 data is because I thought it would be interesting to see, we used the correct me if I'm wrong, I've got to look at the name, but the index, the COLA index.
Right.
And I just kind of wanted to compare, are other cities on the same page? And are we seeing that especially with, competition? Are we just in the same ballpark? And I did find it interesting. So we only have 4 to compare to that are on here because last year Tukwila was on there and it's no longer on our chart, just so that's why there's 4. I found that we were in the conservative section of that. Arlington had about a 5.5 increase in the salary of the mayor, which was pretty much on target with us. However, I was seeing 2 others fairly substantially higher, and then Linwood, I'm not sure if there was possibly an error, but there was a 0% increase. So, but we still fell on the conservative end of it, which I think shows the importance of making sure that we're balancing everything. And it's also kind of interesting to know where other cities are.
Yeah, that's the good comments. Thank you. Commissioner Horde, did you have anything you'd like to add in terms of what you saw, similar, different, general comments?
I don't really have anything to add. My question was about Costco, so that got answered. So I think great discussion. Thank you.
Okay, great. Commissioner Huber, anything to add at this point?
Yeah, how many members do each of these cities have in their city councils, do we know? And how many do we have?
We have 7.
We have 7 city council members. And I'm just wondering what these wages are paying
Okay,
in each city. If that's per council member, then
it is.
we're paying roughly 884 per council member. What are these folks paying?
Well,
And could that be influencing the higher wage that they're getting? If they have fewer council members.
so.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
So we are paying our city council members. I know it says
I
596.
know, but if they get.
Plus
$480
$320.
Plus the 320.
So it's
884, yeah.
916.
916.
Mhm.
80 plus 4. is 320.
80 times 4 is
I mean, 80
320
Times 4, yes, absolutely.
plus 596.
Oh, I had 560. Oh, I'm sorry. 'cause I was over
596.
here. All right.
And so each of the 7 council members
Yes.
are assigned to attend various committee meetings. And assuming they attend, and I want to make that assumption
Yeah.
that they do attend the committee meetings that they're assigned to, they will have attended more than 4, and that each one of them would be qualified to receive the extra $320. So I think it would be fair for us to start with an understanding that although it's 596 plus 80 times 4 for the 4 meetings, I think we should assume that the number they're getting is 916.
Roughly, yeah.
Mhm.
Give or take, a meeting or 2. Thus, it seems like the council members seem to be quite a bit under their comparables, $200 to $300
Mhm.
under the comparables, not knowing how many there are and or if that wage is has a per meeting stipend as well. So then I'm wondering, are our council members on par with our comparables?
So if you look at the comparables, where they have deviations, it's spelled out in the notes section. So as I understand it, most of these council members just get a flat fee.
Mhm.
And the reason why we broke this out as $80 per meeting, up to 4 meetings, was for a matter of transparency.
Okay.
It wasn't because we wanted to nickel and dime anybody. It was just a way to, check and see, are you going to the meetings if anyone had that interest?
And I think that that's a great transparency thing. And it also is a good incentive, I think, to make sure to really be involved, like, your time matters and we want you there, we want you to be involved there. But I do agree that if we move to the city council, the monthly amount per council member, I did feel that even if we take a look and say that our council members are getting $916 a month, it does seem that they are underpaid comparatively. Now, if the other council members have, drastically different duties, that would be, something, but it may be worth considering whether there needs to be an adjustment.
And again, this is where this chart comes in so importantly, because the cities that are paying more tend to have a lot higher sales
Sales
tax
tax.
than we do.
Yeah.
Because the only way to offset any increase, by and large, is with getting more income
Mhm.
revenue from the homeowners, as opposed to getting it from the sales tax. And that's always been
big
in the
balancing act.
forefront, yes, in the forefront of our discussions, because yes, we thank our city council for all that they do, and we commend them for their service. We just, again, like you said, it's a balancing act, because we don't want to, we say we love our community, which means we're supposed to love our neighbors, but how much burden do we put on them?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, and I'll just add in that last year, there was part of me that really thought, why make them file for the meetings? Why not just assume that they're getting the 4 and up their flat salary to remove the burden of the administration of claiming those meetings? So I think that's something that we could look at again, is that at least would up their salary for work that we, assume that they're doing anyway. So that's something I would like to have a little bit more discussion about, and that could be next week when I'm there in person, or we can continue that today.
Okay, well, it's up to you. If you'd like to have that discussion now, we certainly can.
Yeah, I think we can continue the discussion now if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, I really see filing the form and getting that to payroll, having payroll to administrate that task as a burden. If we know that our city council members are attending at least 4 meetings. I do agree that there's some incentive there, but I think each city council member is attending more than 4, and we are low compared to other cities around us. So it just feels like an extra step for them to claim work, to get paid for work that they have to claim to do, when if we love our cities and we love our neighbors, we know that our city council members are already kind of doing that work for us. So I would like to look at kind of just embedding those meetings into their salaries, but I can also be convinced otherwise.
Okay, great. Commissioner Huber?
The cost to administer those meetings, as far as turning in that paperwork, you have somebody who's got to handle the paperwork. I'm dealing with stuff at work right now. It's like, this is costing more than what I'm trying to do. Just the processing the paperwork and the emails and all the other work. So I don't know what that cost is. I'm sure, somebody's already doing something, but it's just adding to that. So like she said, that burden of doing that as opposed to, all right, if we cut out that, maybe give them 2 and you make them put in for 2 or something like that, to bump that up, to lower the paperwork costs. Might be a medium there, or what's the word I'm looking for?
A compromise?
Compromise, yes. So I don't know, it just was something I noticed in this.
Okay. Commissioner Schmidt, did you have a comment?
Yes, possibly pointed at Director Warrington. Do you have insight or even Kate, sorry, what's your last name?
Weaver.
Director Weaver over here.
Start with a W.
Yeah. Do you have insight as to how long this paperwork is? Are we talking 5 pages? Is it a 1-pager? Commissioner Hampton knows?
Well,
Oh.
Anya, you're welcome to weigh in, or I think I've seen them come across our desk as well.
You go first, Kaylin.
It's a log, if I'm not mistaken, a log, yeah, that they fill out.
Okay.
Yep. And they do report at council meetings every week. They report out their council business and the meetings they have attended, and typically information back from those meetings to their other fellow council members.
Okay.
So there is information coming back to the community about what they've been doing.
Yeah. And does that log require, I'm assuming, the chair of whatever board they went to, or it's just they, date it and say they went? Okay.
Yeah, that I can't confirm. I don't know that there's a second signature, but Anya, I'm sure we could bring a sample in if people wanted to see what it looked like, how intensive it was.
I would like to just let you guys, I agree with Caitlin. I think it is on a log. And I will say that it is a burden to staff to just processing paperwork. It's for, another 8 more council members that we have to retrieve paperwork for every single payroll, which is sometimes cumbersome. And it's cumbersome, I think, for the council members to try to record their time. And some of them, a lot of them have second jobs or full-time jobs. And so for them to have to try to account for things that they did earlier in the month to get those 80 hours, I think some of them either forget or it's not worth it to them because of the paperwork and the time it takes for them to go back and search their schedules. And we've had to go and do retro payments in the past to try to gather information, and that's caused extra time and, delay. So from a staff perspective, I would really encourage the salary commission to drop the meeting requirement, but it's your decision. But that's just our perspective.
Well, we do want to be efficient in what we're doing. And
Yeah.
how many don't attend the 4 meetings and or
Claim them.
claim them? I don't even care. Well, the ones that forget and then don't claim it, I'm just wondering who doesn't do it. If they don't do it, they don't get paid for it, right?
Right, that's
Mhm.
correct.
But it's not fair that if they do it and then a snafu happens and they don't get their paperwork in and they're like, it's not worth the $80. This is a pain in the ass. Excuse my language. And I don't want to do it. It's just not
Sure.
worth it. I'll just. write
Okay.
this one off. That's not fair either.
Yeah.
And I'm a very diligent individual who has my ducks in a row, and I would probably be very good at taking care of that, but not everybody is.
I'll say I've observed a lot of flexibility as well, where you have council members that will attend additional meetings at last minute to help cover for each other, or they'll be leaving one meeting to go attend another one because it's, back to back. And so in those transitions, it can be hard sometimes to
Do they
track
get
them.
extra? It's
Yep.
just a maximum of 4.
It's capped,
Yeah.
it sounds like
See,
320.
that doesn't
So,
seem right.
Can I,
Mhm.
Go
I
ahead.
don't want to interrupt.
No, I'm
No.
sorry.
Okay, so let me clarify a couple of things. So our council members are, this is not their quote job. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it's a job, but it's public service.
Yes.
It is not based on them putting in a certain number of hours
Mhm.
at all. There's no calculation of hours into what they get paid. And I've seen the form, and it's a 1-page.
Yeah.
And you fill out what meeting you went to, what day it was, and maybe where it was located. It's very basic,
Mhm.
and it's 1 page
Yeah.
for the whole month. So, yes, it's 7 people that would turn in 1 page
Yeah.
that would require the person doing the payroll checks to look at it.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't see it as taking up a mountain of time, because you look at it and you go, yep, there's 4. Okay. Or, yep, there's 2. Now, the other thing that I do know, because of past years and looking at grids of who put in for the 4, who put in for the 3, who put in for 2, who put in for none.
Mhm.
And if you were to talk to the council members, as I have, you would find that some of them, they keep track of their 4, they want to be paid for their 4, it's all good. Others of them, they go to multiple meetings, sometimes more than 4, sometimes less, but whatever it is, they're not interested. They're good with their base. They're doing it as public service.
Okay.
So it's really individual amongst the council members. I hear what you're saying. I
Yeah.
don't want us to create a burden on administration at all. But I do know, I've seen it. I've seen the form. It's one page.
Okay. So I definitely see both sides of this because I know that because there's no hours, it is public service, nobody is tracking their time. As a citizen, I like to know, and it sounds like with the city council meetings I've seen, I have heard them say, I attended this meeting, this kind of happened, and I like to hear what they're involved in. And I think that that's important to see that the citizens see that they are working and we can, there's accountability for it. So I like the accountability. And I think that most citizens would enjoy that accountability. Now, if there's a way though, because I think that the log is so basic that it may, in reality, you could fill it out and not have been there. There's no oversight to it. So it's self-reporting.
Correct.
And so self-reporting in a way kind of takes away that accountability a little bit. And if it's creating, yes, 7 papers from it, but I do think for payroll, you're going to have to log it each one separately. So you're talking 7 times 4, you're getting all of that going on. I can see how that might be wasteful, but is there a way that we can, at the council meetings, when they discuss where they've been, have, that's public record there, and can that be sufficient as opposed to their log? Is that, I'm kind of posing a question and just kind of talking.
Well, because that would be verbal, then it would, rather than an accounting person looking at one piece of paper.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to have a clerk go back through the verbal.
Yeah, well, and not,
Of-
so this would be them being paid for them almost, and it's, is that accountability in the council every month enough? That that as citizens, we could feel comfortable instead of them writing it down for the payroll person, that it's part of their base and we hold them accountable when we hear them speak.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying,
Mhm.
you're saying we give them the benefit of the doubt. We assume that they're attending the 4. We
Mhm.
pay them for the 4 just as part of
Mhm.
their number that they get every month.
Yeah,
But then the question I think you're asking,
is how do we find
Is
accountability?
how do we verify the accountability? Because we no longer have this one piece of paper.
Yeah,
And I think the answer to that, and Madam Clerk, if you'd like to join in here, I think the answer to that is that we then have to have a second person, maybe a clerk, maybe somebody in the accounting department, to go back
And
through the
listen.
audios
Okay.
of
And
the
that would be-
council
that would
meetings.
be more time consuming.
And yeah, I do
Yeah.
think that would take a whole lot more time.
Yeah, and it would be, it's documented in the minutes under
Yeah.
council business, whenever there's information that they're sharing. It just depends on if this group requires physical verification.
Yeah.
I think that sounds a bit more complex than what we currently have if you're wanting to reduce time.
Yeah,
But there is a record. There is an
yeah.
official record.
I guess I'm kind of wondering if that
meetings.
record can be sufficient, if they're paid, if we give them the benefit of the doubt and pay them. As a citizen, I want the accountability. I can see in the record that they're going to this business, like, as an average citizen, would I feel comfortable with that and that being done?
So answer your question. Would you feel comfortable?
I
Sorry,
Feel comfortable if I listened to it. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Horde.
I'm just wondering, as a citizen, do I ever get to see the log for what meetings people are paid for?
I didn't understand what she said.
I think your question was, can citizens request to see the logs of what they're turning in?
Yes,
For-
that's correct. Yeah, that's my question.
If they completed a public records request, absolutely, yeah, but it is not common practice to post them anywhere. It is strictly for an internal payroll process.
Okay.
Yep, just like a timesheet.
Mhm.
So
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
yes, you could if you wanted to fill out the form to get it.
Okay, I guess the next question is, how many people know that we pay, what we pay the council and how many meetings we pay them or what we pay them to attend?
I
a
believe
meeting?
it's public record.
And
So
it's all public
everyone.
record, but I'm just saying the general citizen,
Do
we have
they know?
40,000 people that live in this city.
Mhm.
And I didn't know this, and I'm not overly plugged in, but out of those 40,700 people we have living here, I bet only 200 people know about the
Per meeting.
for meetings and get paid per meeting. So we have people who are willing to step up and commit 80 hours a month to doing this. I don't know how many hours a month it is, but 20 hours a month to this. I don't know that paying them per meeting, I don't know if that's the best way to incentivize anything. And if you're even getting the best quality, because I'm gonna go to this meeting just so I get my $80. That's all, that's the only reason I'm here. So I guess those are things we need to be considering when we want people that want to go to meetings. And if they're not gonna go, why incentivize them to go to a meeting they really don't want to go to, they're only going to for the $80? Why not just say, you know what, you do the best job you can do, and this is what you're gonna get paid. But if you're not going to a meeting, you get your ass. Go again, I apologize, but we're gonna vote yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that would be a more reasonable, because if they're not going to meetings, they're not getting paid, they're not gonna get elected again. I would assume.
Well, that depends who does their homework.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I don't think paying them per meeting is gonna incentivize anything. I don't even think $800,000, $950,000 a month is incentive to do it. So
Yeah.
to do the job anyway, you do it for the service, and the 1,000 just covers your expenses that you're doing.
Mhm.
So I can be convinced either way. It was just something I was looking at and thinking about, and it's something I've considered in my future. And I'm a grown man who does a great job because I do the job. And I don't need to be, oh, you go to a meeting, give me $80. That's not my incentive. And we shouldn't have anybody on the council that's their incentive.
Mhm.
$80 a meeting, come on.
Right. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your comments. And I think that's why we have found in the past, when we did do a spreadsheet of who's claiming the 4 versus less than 4. That's why we see, a broad range of
Yeah.
some people claim, some don't. And so, again, I'm giving them my full faith that when they get assigned to various committees to attend that are outside of the city, that they're actually going.
Yeah.
And then it's their option as to whether or not they claim the meeting.
So you're, as a citizen like Stevens, which do you find to be more neighborly? The one who doesn't claim it, but is probably still doing the job, or the one that's claiming it and doing the job?
I think either way is perfectly fine. As individuals, some folks have different financial situations than others, and that may play a role into it. I'm not going to try to presuppose or second guess. But I do believe, just because we're all human and we all come from different backgrounds and understandings, that, there's some people that need to go to those 4 meetings and they're going to go anyway, but they need to claim them, and rightfully so, they should get paid for it. If there's some that choose not to because they're in a different financial situation, and they are willing to forego that voluntarily, then good for them. Either way, I think is perfectly right.
Is one way higher than the other for you?
No,
Because not having known this, I didn't know if it was a paid position, to be honest with you. I'm not that in touch, and since tipping my big toe into the whole political realm. So I had no idea. So the fact that they get something is great. I don't know, is the incentivizing of $80 a meeting, it just doesn't sit very well. I don't see any of the others that do that. I don't know maybe how that's broken down. So I don't know. Like I said, that's why.
Yeah.
sure. No, thank you for those comments. Well-founded. I can tell you this. I can tell you that it has continued this way because it started that way back many years ago. We can always change it.
Mhm.
But it was a matter of, we love our council members. We give them full faith and assurances that they are doing a good job. And, until they prove themselves otherwise, we have no reason to doubt. But it was in the past, way before I came on board. That's just how they chose to do it as a point of accountability and transparency. Again, we can change it if the majority feels that we should.
I would say my initial thought on this approach is to always go by data and look at numbers. But from what I'm kind of hearing, it sounds like that might be, like you said, it's all over the place. We know this council member sits there and talks about being at all these meetings and they claim none. And really, when you think about it, the only benefit of that is to the city not paying them that, like in terms of the cost. So my approach would always be data, but I don't know if this data is actually going to be helpful, right? Because you could look at it over 6 months, get an average, how many meetings are being claimed. It's 3 meetings is the average. Let's have 3 meetings be part of their salary and get rid of the paperwork. I think that, that is logical and it goes based on history. But if we already know that the history of it is not reliable, I don't know how to move forward with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the data isn't reliable because we did get a written record of what was turned in. So the data that we received was reliable.
Yeah,
What
whether
was-
it's complete.
Well, and it was complete.
Oh, okay.
So it was the choice of the council member that was inconsistent.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, no fault.
yes,
No
exactly.
gold
Like I
stars,
said, the
no
only people
penalty.
that benefit are citizens who aren't paying that extra, right?
Right.
But so when I say I would call that incomplete because somebody chose not to complete their paperwork, right? So it would be hard to say, let's do it on an average on incomplete data.
Right. And going to your point of averages of how many meetings, again, a while back, we had that conversation as well, and we came up with 4
4,
because
okay.
that seemed like the most reasonable number that most of them would go to.
Okay.
Maybe some a few more, maybe some a few less.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So do we want to continue on just for the moment? Because we have 2 areas to look at. One is the mayor's compensation and the other is the city council's compensation. We have been focusing at this point on city council. Shall we continue on? Is there anything more that we can add to this conversation at this time before we also then take a look at the chart
mayor.
that we were given last time? Let me find the right page.
Commissioner Hampton,
Yes, please, go ahead.
I would like to say that I did pull up the data from last year that we did collect, and there were 3 council members that did not submit any timesheets or logs. 2 of them I know have like very busy full-time jobs, and then the 3rd one I think just wishes not to claim them, even though they go to many meetings. And then the other 4 council members that did submit for the meetings, one of them had 46 meetings that were extra beyond the 4 in 10 months that were unpaid.
Yeah.
So that means they did 76 total in 10 months. And then the other one was 11 over, so 11 extra, so 52 total. The other one was 2 over, so 19 meetings total over 10 months. And the other one was 17 over for a grand total of 55 in 10 months. So I mean, I'm happy to email our payroll to get that data for you for this year's January to October, if that's what you want me to bring back for next week's meeting, if that would be helpful. Also, we have a boards and commission liaisons list that I could put in the packet next week, or I could show it on the screen right now, that shows each council member and what they're assigned to for each meetings and what their liaisons to, if that helps you.
That is a fantastic idea. Thank you so much. For me personally, I'd love it if you could send it out to us in a packet. Both
Okay.
of those items, that would be great. Would that be okay with the rest of us to receive that information and continue further next week?
Yes, that'd be great. for
Yes, thank
me.
you.
Anya, did the three that didn't turn anything in, do we know how many meetings they attended?
No, we wouldn't know because we don't track them. The only time they report out is Deputy Clerk Weaver said, as at each council meeting, they each report out the meetings that they've gone to the previous week.
Go and
If
listen.
I was being very diligent, I'd go back through the meeting minutes and I could look that up. Are those three, now you know who the three are. Are they active board member, council members, or are they kind of the less active?
Well, I'll say that all of our council members are pretty active. I know I just counted like one person's name on this liaisons list, and they're a liaison to 5 committees or 5 different boards.
They're earning, but they don't claim it.
I'll say too, there's no requirement for them to share council business, and sometimes they will acquiesce their time if there is a packed schedule, and they'll just, not share that week because we have a lot of things to go over or several public hearings. And so the minutes are helpful, but it's not like a gospel of exactly what their week looked like.
Gotcha.
And I will add that this list of meetings does not include like conversations or phone calls or direct meetings with citizens, like to get coffee to talk about, things that are going on in the city. And it doesn't include like city activities, awards, or any type of like opening event or promotional event or public appearance. So it just includes those boards and commission kind of meetings.
Is that liaison list, I'm guessing that's also public record?
It is.
Correct. Just to close this out, because I know we probably all want to look at that before we continue. A thought that I have with this is if they are liaison to at least 4 committees, I could feel comfortable getting rid of it because I know that it is public record. They should be on there. We as citizens can choose to hold them accountable and ask how it's going if we choose, if we so choose, or we can assume they do it, or we can feel that they don't and not vote for them. But it gives some accountability there to know that they're a liaison. So that may be a route to go.
Are all them liaison to at least 4 committees?
Miss Anya, do you know that answer?
You might need to see.
Well, I'd have to kind of go through this column and count each person. I can do that while you guys are talking, or we can just look at it all together next meeting. It's up to you guys.
Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending that out, those 2 items, that would be wonderful for next week.
Okay.
Okay, so we will have more information next week to specifically address whether or not we break out the 4 meetings or we combine it into the base of what they get paid going forward for next year. And then the other thing that, as we're looking through this, and again, thank you so much for all of your assistance in pulling together the information for the various neighboring towns and so forth. And as we're going through this, again, we want to really take a look at where do we stand in terms of population and sales tax in relation to where we are for numbers. And then the other thing that we want to go to and just kind of keep in the back of our mind is that chart from October 20th meeting, which is page 11. And up at the top, the title is Consumer Price Index, Pacific Cities and US City Average. And that was based on September of 2022. So that we can kind of massage it all together and decide what seems right, what will be right for Lake Stevens. All right, if I may, anything further on city council before we turn our attention to the mayor?
None for me.
Seeing none, okay. So let me recap. Our mayor right now is making $114,123.60 a year, which multiplies out to $9,510.30 a month. Miss Anya, maybe you can fill in some blanks for me. Are there any other per diems and things that get reimbursed? For example, trips, mileage, anything like that? So that when he's representing Lake Stevens, he's getting reimbursed for those expenses. Is that correctly directed at you, or should we ask somebody else?
Yeah, so whenever any of the elected officials travel for city business, we pay travel just like an employee. So hotel or per diem, we pay for the registration of the conference if they go to a conference. And then mileage is reimbursable also if a city vehicle is not available. But when I did ask for the data last year for mileage reimbursement, no city council members were requesting mileage reimbursements for any of their business. But I can ask that again.
Did I correctly hear you say that with respect to city council, but more specifically turning my attention to the mayor, that he can either use a city vehicle or request mileage?
Correct.
Okay.
We have a policy that says that they, we encourage, like, we need to use the city vehicles as much as possible. But if for some reason, or like, the meeting is closer to their residence and then they can use their personal vehicle, or, there's certain exceptions to that policy.
Okay, all right, good. So that sounds completely in line with what most companies would do.
Yeah.
Okay, so turning again to the mayor's salary, we have our chart. We've got a couple of cities that, Arlington in particular is about $2,100 low. Linwood is about $800 higher. And then we've got, others that are a lot higher, some are a lot lower, but also please note that many of these positions are part-time as opposed to full-time, which would make a difference.
So then this 9,000 was last, this had a 42% increase. That's one big outlier.
Yeah.
Do you know if the city administrator for Mount Vernon is a new thing? That the mayor acts as the city administrator? Is that why the big bump in salary?
Yeah.
It's possible. I also know that there are many cities that have a mayor or a city administrator.
Mhm.
It's not unheard of, but it's not terribly common that a city would have both. We do have both.
We do?
Yes. So Jean Basil is our city administrator. And of course, we know Mayor Gailey is our mayor.
All in all, it seems his salary's in line, given our population, sales tax and everything else. Seems like his salaries falls right in that sweet spot. And we're talking an 8.5% bump.
Yeah.
If we're just sticking with a COLA, right? Is that
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
that what the,
Well, that's,
what the non-representative,
Yeah,
Kinda.
8.55.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be what would non-represented person would, or employee would normally get. Is that what I understand?
I do have an update on that. We had our first public hearing for the budget on Tuesday, and that COLA amount has changed. The recommended COLA has changed to 6% for non-represented.
It did.
yes, it did.
I'm a representative. So, all right.
Is that, Anya, I was looking at the budget literally today. So is that an update from what is posted on there right now? Do you know?
I haven't looked at the website, but I give me a second and I can take a look. This was from the meeting on Tuesday night, so just 2 days ago. So usually they post it. It would be in the it's posted on YouTube. I don't know if the presentation made it to the website yet though, but I will check right now.
And the only reason I bring that up is because I was kind of looking at it and I was trying to see if I was finding, a reference to the COLA in the city budget and seeing if I could find just, put those lines together. And I was seeing in what is posted there, it was for the police. And it said COLA adjustment, and I was seeing that 8.55 there. And so I assumed, but it was a little unclear based on what I was looking at. And I was just kind of wondering, like, if that was, I just wanted to know whether it was flowing through the entire departments.
So the presentation from Tuesday night is on the website.
Okay.
It's called budget presentation number 6, public hearing number 1.
Gotcha. Okay, I looked at something different then.
Okay, and the police are getting so we have two representations of the guild, which is the union over in the police. We have a non-commissioned, and they are getting a 4% increase because that's their locked in negotiated COLA. And the commission, our police officers, are getting a 3% for 2023.
Okay.
And then our Teamsters union is under negotiations right now. So we're budgeted currently at 0 because it's pending in negotiations. And then our non-represented, like I mentioned on Tuesday, was presented at a 6%.
Okay.
The cost of living, though, the CPIW did not change though. So like I had mentioned before, we based the 8.6% originally off of the CPIW, which I gave that data in your last packet.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much. So, Commissioner Hubert, did you have more to add?
Oh, I have another question.
Sure, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
it's terrible. We went from 9,000 to 9,510 this from 21 to 22, correct?
Mhm.
That's the numbers I'm looking at.
Mhm.
What percent is that?
That was 5.6.
That's 5.6, okay.
Yeah.
So he would get, so if we want that 6%, in fact, how do they do a city budget without knowing what the costs for these positions are gonna be for next year?
You know, that's a great question.
You know?
For the Teamsters specifically, or for these positions?
Yeah, these positions, the city council and the mayors, how do they budget?
They do a budget amendment after you guys make your decision.
We
I
make,
think, are you talking about for the COLA across the board for all non-represented? How do they not know what that
No,
number is, or
no, I'm
just
just wondering.
specifically this? Okay.
Just in general, just for our position, 'cause that's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? Shouldn't it be part of the budget? How do you submit a budget, not knowing these? Anyway, so 6% would be very in line with what he got last year.
Mhm.
And as I have noodled out when I'm just looking at this briefly here, was that he seems to be in that sweet spot right in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
I see no reason to change it at this point unless his job duties have changed significantly or he's taken on something else. Is there anything that we're unaware of that he's taken on?
I'm
in
not
addition,
aware of anything.
no,
We
yeah.
just got the job description
Yeah,
in our
okay.
packet for tonight.
Yeah.
So that
And
should
I would
be,
think this is current.
yes,
I'm
I would
shocked this
believe.
is a one pager. My job description is like 3 pages. He's obviously not doing enough. No, I've seen him at our community meetings at late at night, so.
Yeah.
So I don't see any issues with where we are with the mayor right now.
I would echo the sentiment that I felt when comparing and then also seeing the difference between last year and how other cities also handled that. I feel that we are in line. I feel that we are, conservative enough to take into consideration, like you said, that our sales tax tends to be lower than everybody else's, yet we still are able to stay like fairly comparable. I think that's kind of the right track to stay on. If we see a huge sales tax increase in 2 years, perhaps that's when some things could maybe change along with that. But if we don't have different revenues, I don't see a reason to deviate.
Okay, fair comment. Thank you. Commissioner Hart, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. I don't see a reason to deviate, and yeah, nothing, great discussion. Nothing else to add.
Okay, all right. All right, is there any, this is kind of a comprehensive, wrap your head around it, trying to do the right thing for all parties concerned kind of process. We want to honor our mayor. We want to honor our city council because what they do is necessary for our community. We also want to do the right thing, as we talked about, with and for and by our neighbors. So is this something where we feel comfortable enough that we've talked through this process to the point that we can tonight? And we'll all go back home, chew on it some more, think on it some more, process through it and come back next week, because here's what's on the calendar. We are slated for one more quote, regular meeting.
Yeah.
Before we go into our public meeting where we are to present what we are proposing at a public meeting, and whomever in the community wishes to attend will. And once that is done, then it will either happen or it won't. I've never been involved in a process where it did not. And then we will have to sign the appropriate documents because there's about a 30-day window before it can become effective, which is why it's really important for us to get it done very much in the beginning of December.
Yeah.
So it starts to kick in January. Is there anything more that you all think about, see, or want to discuss before we kind of put a comma in it for tonight and then come back prepared to come up with our final solutions next week?
No, Anya's gonna get us some paperwork. I'm comfortable with the mayor and it's just the city council that we need to I want to do some more research on that and I wanna
Okay.
see if anyone else is doing that same type of per meeting payment. So I'm just kind of curious.
So, Miss Anya, if you want to jump in here, please do. Otherwise, I can tell you that she does a great job getting all the information for us. And if they don't provide it in some format that she can collect, we have no way of knowing. So again,
I can't do my own research on this?
of
Okay.
course,
All right, that's
absolutely.
what
I guess I was just giving my full faith and credit, Miss Anya, to you, because I thought if we were aware that anyone else was, that it would have been annotated, but please,
Yeah.
absolutely, go for it.
Yeah, that's correct. None of our comparable cities use the same method. They're all just flat rate, unless it's denoted in the comments, which it's not. I think there was one other city in Snohomish County that did something similar. I'd have to reach out to them to understand and that was City of Sultan. And on the survey that they provided data for, they said that the compensation for the mayor was $1,500 a month plus $500 per meeting or extra meeting. So that was for the mayor though, and that was Sultan.
Must not be a full-time mayor. No.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I
Commissioner
was
Schmidt.
going to say, I feel comfortable adjourning until next time. The only thing I would like to possibly bring up is whether or not next week, November 17th, we have the meeting scheduled for 6. If it's possible to move it to 6:15 or 6:30, I can still make it work, but just wondering if that 15-minute later timing could work for everybody.
Okay, so you're asking for 15 minutes. Would 30 really be better?
It wouldn't make it, I just need the 15 for sure. But I know that's a funny time for a meeting for some people, so but 15 is what I need.
Okay.
Those kids, man.
I have no objection, Commissioner Huber.
I would like to just move it to, let's just move it to 6:30 to make sure everything's copacetic and
Okay.
there's nothing comes up.
Okay, Commissioner Horde, do you have any issue with moving the meeting next week to 6:30?
That actually works great for me. Thank you.
Okay,
Wonderful.
and may I ask also, Miss Anya and Miss Caitlin, is that okay
it
with the
available?
city?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds
Yes.
good.
No problem.
Okay, so do we need to confirm that by a motion, or can we just change the time?
You can just change the time.
Okay. All right, so not a problem. We're happy to accommodate that. So next
I
week
appreciate
at 6:30.
Does it work
appreciate it.
For Commissioner Hampton? Nobody asked you. Does it work for you, Commissioner
Thank you for asking. Yes, I can do that. Not a problem.
Then you could have time to bring some bread.
I see. I see. Okay, so that'll be next week, November 17 at 6:30 PM. And that is the modification that we will make. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you all so very much for engaging in this conversation. It is a little esoteric, a little exotic, and looking at 12 different things all at once to try to arrive at what seems appropriate for Lake Stevens. So thank you so very much for your time and attention and energy to this process. And if there is nothing further, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you so much. It is 7:18 PM. We are adjourned for this November 10, 2022 meeting of the Salary Commission. Have a good evening.
Thank you.